Time to make a new 10-minute testing. But what about? Let me consult my mind, Palace.
You know what you must do. Make videos about competitive archetypes. You saw how many views the Cash Tira one got. No, Joseph, you've forgotten your jank roots. The views are in the decks that people love. Try to make them competitive any way you can. You should do Evil Eye. What the? Do not do that.
Do not listen to him.
I don't know what he's talking about. Do not do that.
Do not listen to him.
Good afternoon, jank enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-minute testing. Wow, thank God we're finally done with all that photon hypernova crap. Is what I would say if I were a fool! This set is bursting at the seams with cards designed to take a tier 5 archetype all the way up to tier 4, including fan non-favorites like this one. If you thought Towers Turbo was just a little too exciting, you're gonna love Evil Eye. So here's the list. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is the #1 place to go if you need a pack simulator, a card database, or want to read a wealth of strategy articles. They also post breakdowns and lists from every major TCG and Master Duel tournament, including the Master Circuit series. Give them a look at www.ygoprodeck.com. With that, let's examine Evil Eye. Evil Eye is a refugee from one of the most mid-deck build packs in modern memory. It debuted in Infinity Chasers alongside Witchcrafter and Infinitrack, and despite what Peeps Yu-Gi-Oh! Would have you believe, none of those archetypes are very good. Evil Eye's game plan has always revolved around Serziel and Selene, two cards that when combined make a Trident that's nearly impossible to get rid of. That's it. There's no, second interesting part of the deck. There's no real backup plan. It doesn't do anything else. You basically just sit on Serziel, make it as large as possible with Selene, and hope your opponent isn't boarding into kaijus. Until, and say it with me for the 13th time, Photon Hypernova. This set doesn't just contain a card that resolves all this deck's weaknesses, it contains two. Evil Eyes Unleashed, aside from serving, is basically 2 searches and a spell recycle if you perform a Link Summon, and Basiltris actually gives the deck something to do that isn't Serziel Raid Boss. This monster opens up the possibility of 3-axis toolboxing, a practice that's gotten a lot better than it was in Fire Fist's heyday. Number 75 gives you game against Nibiru, Ashura King is unreal if you could make it to 3 materials, Fortune Tune is one of the best Zeus pilots ever printed, and Stone King Darius is perfect for a post-combat Machinex. By keeping the game state simplified with blind second blowouts like Evenly Nibiru and Eclipse, we can take over the game with Serziel and his familiars, demanding extremely specific interaction from an opponent without a lot of options. So with that, let's get into the card by card. First up, 3 Nibiru and 3 Ash Blossom, followed by 3 copies of Serziel, Watcher of the Evil Eye. When this card is normal summoned, you can add an Evil Eye from your deck to your hand except for Serziel, and if it's equipped with Evil Eye of Selene, you can target a special summoned monster your opponent controls and destroy it. Once per turn during the next standby phase after that effect was activated, destroy a card you control. This was meant as a downside, but we can use it for up. After that, we've got 1 copy of Medusa, Watcher of the Evil Eye. When this is normal summoned, you can target an Evil Eye in your graveyard, except herself, and add it to your hand. And if this card is equipped with Selene, you can target a monster in your opponent's graveyard and banish it. The next turn, you have to banish 1 card from your graveyard. After that, we've got 2 copies of Basiltris, Familiar of the Evil Eye. If you control an Evil Eye monster and this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can special it, but banish it when it leaves the field. And then during your opponent's turn, you can, after this effect resolves, Link Summon an Evil Eye Link monster using monsters you control as material. When you do, you can also use equip spells you control as Evil Eye monsters. After that, we've got 1 copy of Catoblepis, which can target an Evil Eye spell trap you control until the end of the turn. That card can't be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, and if you control an Evil Eye monster other than Catoblepis while this is in your graveyard, you can special summon it, but banish it when it leaves the field. And finally, 1 copy of Basilius, which if you control an Evil Eye monster can be specialed from the hand once per turn, and then during the main phase you can send an Evil Eye spell trap from your deck to the graveyard. After that, we've got some consistency tools and 3 copies of Evil Eyes Unleashed. You can send an Evil Eye monster and an Evil Eye spell trap from your deck to the graveyard to add an Evil Eye equip spell from your deck to your hand, but for the rest of the turn, each time time you activate a non-Evil Eye card or effect, you lose 500 life points. If you link summon an Evil Eye Link monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard to equip an Evil Eye equip spell from your graveyard to a Link monster you control. Those are hard once per turns, but they're good enough. After that is Evil Eye Domain Pareidolia. When this card is activated, you can add an Evil Eye monster from your deck to your hand, and then once per turn during damage calculation, if an Evil Eye monster is attacked while Selene is in your spell and trap card zone, you can make the battle damage you take from the battle inflict to your opponent as well. This is a lot of the way you don't automatically lose when you take 500 over and over again off the effect of Selene. If this card in the field zone is destroyed by a card effect, you can target an Evil Eye in your graveyard and add it to your hand, like the one of Serziel, and of course that's a hard once. After that, we've got 2 copies of Evil Eye of Selene equipped to an Evil Eye monster. It can't be destroyed by battle or card effect, and your opponent can't target it with card effects. Each time you activate the equipped monster's effect or another Evil Eye spell trap card, the equipped monster gains 500 attack and you lose 500 life points. And if this card is in your graveyard, you can pay 1,000, banish an Evil Eye spell trap from your grave except Selene, and set this card. We're playing 2 copies of Evil Eye of Gorgiano. This can be equipped to an Evil Eye monster once per turn, and its name becomes Evil Eye of Selene while in the spell and trap card zone. While your life points are lower than your opponent's, which is pretty much always in this deck, you can banish this card from the graveyard and discard an Evil Eye card to add an Evil Eye spell trap from your deck to your hand, except for Evil Eye of Gorgiano. After that, we've got 1 copy of Evil Eye Awakening, which special summons an Evil Eye from your hand or graveyard, or if you have Selene, your deck as well. That is a hard once per turn, which is fine because we're only playing 1. 3 copies of Book of Eclipse and a Terraforming. For traps, we're playing Evil Eye Defeat, which if you control an Evil Eye monster, allows you to target a monster on the field, or 2 if Selene is in your spell trap zone and return them to the hand. 3 Infinite Impermanence, 3 Evenly Matched, and 1 Evil Eye Retribution, a counter trap that, when a spell trap is activated while you control an Evil Eye, negates the activation and destroys it, and if you have Evil Eye of Selene, its activation and effect can't be negated. In the extra, we've got a lot of 3s, and of course, Zeus and Machinex. We've got Downward Magician alongside Ashura King, the Phantom Knights of Breaksword, DDD Stone King Darius, 2 Bamboozling Gossip Shadow, Fortune Tune, and then 1 apiece of Serziel, 2 Gorgon, and 2 Lingaribo. In the side, we've got 3 Gozen Match, 3 Lightning Storm, 1 Feather Duster, 3 Dark Ruler, 3 Cosmic Cyclone, Evil Eye Confrontation for back row decks, and Dino Wrestler Pankratops. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Ninja, and God, Jesse Cotton and his consequences. What do I have to do to get the guy to play hero at a YCS? Our opponent's going first, and they have an instant fusion, a sentence that would have struck fear into my heart 6 months ago, but nowadays, it's okay. They'll just go for Yagaramaru and then go for a Mitsu afterwards in order to go into a Saizo. They'll activate the effect of the Saizo, we'll activate the effect of Infinite Impermanence, and it will fail to resolve. They're going to normal summon this copy of Kagero and activate its effect to bring back their fusion monster, which is find a contact into Maizen. They're going to set 2 and pass turn, and yeah, that's a decent draw off the top. We'll go for the evenly matched that we rip off the top of our deck. Then in main phase 2, we're going to fire off the Pot of Prosperity, finding off the top. Okay, we were always going to get evenly matched anyway. The Serziel is looking nice, so we'll go ahead and add that from deck to hand. And then afterwards, we're going to normal summon this copy of Serziel, activate the effect. They're going to activate Maizen. We will chain Ash Blossom, and we should be good to go. That's going to grab us an Evil Eyes Unleashed. We're going to equip our monster with Selene, and then we'll fire off Evil Eyes Unleashed, bidding a couple of cards, adding a copy of Gorgiano to hand, then activating the effect of Selene and the effect of Gorgiano in sequence. We're going to go ahead and pitch this copy of Basiltris we added, and then we'll go for Pareidolia, activate the effect of Selene, activate the effect of Cataplepis. I'm sorry, they all look the same to me. Summon all of these monsters from the graveyard and the Basilius from our hand to go into a Shore King. At this point, we can go for Serziel. Our opponent will chain a Kagero, and of course, we finally have the monster negate on our side of the field, so we no longer care. We'll equip our monster with Gorgiano and pass back to our opponent because we are, of course, in main phase 2. They'll draw for turn, and that's literally the best draw on their deck, but I think we're still fine. We'll go for the Pareidolia that we have to pop off our Serziel effect in order to bring back this copy of Basiltris. They're going to go for the Ninjutsu Artbook Notebook of Mystery, and afterwards, we will just Serziel this set card. They're going to Kagero, but just like last turn, we have the Ashura on our side of the field, and we will negate it. At resolution, we'll go for Selene. We are getting pretty low here, so we do have to wrap this up. We'll go for Basiltris here. We draw for turn, and that's a nice one. We'll activate the effect of the Serziel in order to pop the Gorgiano. That'll trigger the effect of the Selene, and then afterwards we can go for the Cataplepis, so we can overlay for a copy of Stone King Darius and Machinex. We'll go to the battle phase and attack in for 23, rather. Wow, this guy has so many effects. 3,000 and well over lethal. Our second match is up against Ritual Dogmatica. What the heck is this? This is like the 4th time I've seen this deck this week. There's no way it's actually good, right? Unfortunately, this hand showcases a pretty severe weakness of the deck. Some hands fold to a very particular type of interaction. We're going to begin with a copy of Pareidolia in order to grab a Serziel. We'll normal summon the Serziel. Down comes the Ash Blossom, and that is The end of our turn. Well, let's see if our opponent can win through a Book of Eclipse. They're going to begin with a copy of Diviner of the Herald. That's going to send a copy of Herald of the Arclight to the graveyard. They're going to grab a white to hand, then go for Dogmatic Matrix, adding 2 cards from deck to hand before going for Dogmatic Maximus. We'll activate Book of Eclipse here before it can activate its on-field effect, and down comes Dogmatic Calamity for a white relic, triggering the Herald of the Arclight in the graveyard, and then going for the Dogmatic Matrix to send a Garua. They'll draw an additional card and fire off Dogmatica Macabre. There's Albazoa, and there's 8 cards from our extra deck going to the graveyard. After that is Nadir's Servant, sending a Titanclad. Jeez. They'll attack over our monster, go to main phase 2, set 2, and trigger the effect of the Titanclad at end step, summoning an Ecclesia, and activating its effect in order to grab from deck to hand another copy of Dogmatic Calamity. They even draw an Iris Sword Soul off the Book of Eclipse. We're going to begin with Medusa. That's going to eat a Dogmatic Clergy. We're going to fire off this copy of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, and then we'll go to combat. We really didn't have anything to do this turn. We're very normal summon reliant, as you can see. Our opponent's going to go for the second Dogmatic Matrix, adding 2 cards once again before going for Calamity, making a white, and then triggering the effect of both the Herald of the Arclight and the white in order to pump the white to 4,500 attack. After that, they're going to switch their monsters to attack position and get in for well over lethal. Maybe I should start taking this deck seriously. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's playing Sprite Adventure, and this hand looks unbeatable. We're going second. Our opponent's going to start by normal summoning a copy of Plague Spreader Zombie. They're going to special summon a copy of Sprite Red and fire off Fateful Adventure. They're going to go for an Almirage that triggers the effect of the Fateful Adventure and grabs them a Draco back, which they can then put on top of their deck to bring back this Plague Spreader Zombie. They'll go for the Sprite Sprint here to send a copy of Angler from the deck to the graveyard, then trigger the effect in order to summon a couple of copies of Beaver. From here, they're going to go for the Fateful Adventure Detour, pitching this copy of Water Enchantress of the Temple in order to grab Rite of Aramasir from deck to hand. They'll go for Gigantic Sprite, activate the effect, and yeah, well, there's the infip. So they can still activate Rite of Aramasir here. They're going to do so. And then afterwards, they're going to set 1 and pass. Should not have fired it because now I'm going directly to battle and you are going to have to keep the token. There's everything. In main phase 2, we're going to go for a Pareidolia. We should be able to wrap it up from this position. Normal summon this copy of Serziel. Use its effect in order to grab a copy of Evil Eye Unleashed. We'll go for that effect in order to send a copy of Basiltrist to the graveyard and grab a Selene. Then we'll activate Gorgiano, pitching the Selene in order to grab a Retribution. We'll go for the Basiltrist, and then we'll special summon this copy of Basilius to go into Bamboozler. Then go for Evil Eye of Selene, and afterwards we'll equip it to this copy of Serziel. I guess let's go ahead and destroy the token. I don't think it really matters too much. We'll take a little bit of damage in the process and pass it back to our opponent. They'll draw for turn, and that's pretty much the best draw remaining in their deck. We'll pop the Pareidolia here and trigger the effect of the Selene. They will draw a card off Hyperia, and what is it? Pretty much the best search off their deck. Wow, they're going to go for Sprite Jet and then Sprite Starter. That's going to proc an Evil Eye Retribution out of us. Afterwards, we're going to trigger the effect of the Selene, and they're going to go into a Sprint. They'll activate the effect of Sprint. We'll activate the Bamboozler. That'll change the effect of both players draw a card, and dang, there's Triple Tactics Talents. Okay, we're going to fire off the Serziel here because we have to, and that's going to trigger the Selene, and then they Serziel, and unfortunately we're taking like 3,600, so we really only have 2 activations of Evil Eye spell traps for the rest of the game, so we'll have to play a little careful. We're going to pop that back row. That's going to trigger the effect of the Selene, and then we're going to normal summon a copy of Medusa. That's going to grab us a Pareidolia. We're going to activate the Pareidolia, go down to 400. God, even 1 triple tack put us so close to death, but we should be able to go ahead and sweep it up here with a Divisor King Machinex. 14 off of the Medusa, and our opponent's going to concede. So it's time for game 2, and oh, they made us go first. That is so cute. At least they know what they're doing. We're going to begin with a copy of Pot of Prosperity, finding off the top. I guess Pareidolia. We'll go for Pareidolia in order to grab a copy of Basilius. We're going to normal summon this copy of Serziel. That's going to grab a copy of Evil Eye Unleashed from our deck to our hand, and then afterwards we're going to go ahead and grab a Selene. We'll activate the effect of the Gorgiano in graveyard in order to grab a Retribution, then go for the Basiltrist in the graveyard, the Catablapus in the graveyard, and the Basilius from hand to make my old pal Ashura King. After we do that, we're going to activate Evil Eye of Selene and set 2. Good luck to our opponent. They draw for turn. That's a pretty good one. They're going to begin with Cynet Mining. This is so cute. They're going to normal summon this copy of Cyberse Gadget and go into Linger Rebo. That Cyberse Gadget is going to get them a token, then they can activate Plagues to summon it back to their side of the field. They'll special summon Caligo Clawcrow, and of course we have to Serziel the Gigantic Sprite in response to its effect. Because it detaches for effect, it's not going to resolve, and then afterwards they can fire off a Tasking into our Retribution. That's known, so let's see what they have afterwards. They're going to go ahead and activate the Plagues in graveyard, summon it, and then they will link off their board to go into a Sprint, which we can Ashura King. That should be the end of the game. They only have 1 monster on their side of the field, and we still have an infinite impermanence that contests anything, and it is. We'll go for this copy of Serziel, popping the Pareidolia in the standby phase and cycling back this copy of Basiltris. We're going to normal summon the Serziel. That's going to grab from deck to hand an Evil Eye Awakening first time we're activating it this episode. We'll go for Basiltris here, and then Basiltris in hand, and then Selene in order to lose a little more life points and make this guy just a little bit bigger. Divisor King Machinex should wrap this up. We'll destroy our opponent's last remaining monster and proceed to combat. I guess we can make use of Ashura King's extremely funny effect right now. Get in a couple of times, and then afterwards dome him with the Serziel. So we're back with the deck, and the ceiling might be low, but the salt is high. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1. The engine is small. At a time when non-engine cards are at an all-time playable, this bodes extremely well for archetypes that have to compete with a Rise Heart. 2. It's got a near-infinite rank 3 generator. Basiltris and friends are just so very funny, especially against opponents who have never read Ashura King. And 3, we didn't play this because it's boring as all hell, but the engine's flexible enough that you can easily slap it in Kashtira for a better end board and going second plays. And the cons. 1. Some hands can be really vulnerable to hand traps. Your Serziel or Resurrection being ashed is often the end of the game. 2, one issue with going all in on one monster is you're beholden to that monster's tools. Monsters that can't be targeted or destroyed can be very hard to out unless you're willing to dip super low for a big Serziel attack. And 3, time. This deck uses its life points aggressively. If you're near time, you're pretty much always going to be lower than your opponent. Play fast. All in all, at least it's not towers anymore, but unfortunately I don't see Evil Eye being played as more than an engine in Kashtira in the near future. It's just too boring. Thanks so much for watching. A big shout out to all of my Patreons, but specifically Elena Tincher, Alex Dominguez, Alex Perea, Allison Elliott, Brett Henry, Bizen Queen, Chaotic Meatball, Crispy, Da Bears, Darkmaster Zork, DJ Elephant, Executive Slifer, John Piet, Jordan Coons, King Magic Ruler, Nightmari, Lockstone, Luis Hernandez, Materiality, MBT Play Dolce, Mike Carlotti, NH6574, Puffins of Doom, Rose Lapine, Roos Mosquito, Soft Dough, Solar Flare, The Hollow King, Troy Says By Erasure is Gay, Vincent Storm, Wonder Waffle, Yuki, and Yor. I couldn't have done it without you.